Yeah, so I just hit, it's recording now. So let's get our early. You know, this will be like the White Album, you know, the early riffs. You know, Abbey Road Studios.
Oh, you guys are great. This is awesome.
Alcourt Studios.
We should do this every week. Tell Joe.
Phil Spector. We got to find Phil. Where's Phil Spector?
Learn one thing every time you're here. You get better.
Well, I know it's funny. You know, it's funny. I'm sorry, except for Chris, he's got a haircut. He's getting to be like the 70s. Everybody has kind of bad hygiene and their hair's way too long. All we need is.
I haven't cut my hair in 2 months.
I do, right. But by the way, if my hair gets any longer, last time I got this long, I wouldn't have got a total afro. I got a perm. I had a full afro my senior year, my 4th year of college.
This is funny. Laura cut my hair last night.
Yeah,
no way. With the buzz cutter, you get a little, you know.
Yeah, I see.
She did a good job though. Pretty decent, huh? Yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm serious. It's starting.
Oh my God, I need a haircut.
I see people at Trader Joe's when I'm getting my food, and you can tell they haven't changed. They have. I feel like I'm almost 14 again because the only thing I wash is jeans and a t-shirt.
So why don't you come right here?
Yeah.
So because you're.
Oh, I'm going to be here when I talk.
Well, just a little bit social distancing.
Well,
Just so when people are checking in early, they can at least
Yeah,
get
I'm going to sit back here, and then so when you're talking, like.
That's actually great. If they can see you guys back there, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're like this. We're the social distancing group.
We're 6 feet apart, always.
Hey, can you get
Yeah.
John,
Hey, Chris, when you're done with that, can you just lay it down? Yes, sir.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Oh, hey, Glenn. Good to have you.
It's Glenn.
Yes, sir.
I'm ready,
I
but
hear that Iowa accent from anywhere, pal.
maybe I should put myself on mute so I won't interfere with your
Go
program.
Hawkeyes. Yeah, put it on mute. That's the way to go. We're going to have an
Okay.
open discussion at the end, but go for mute for now.
Okay.
I hit record to the cloud.
Do you want us up and being mobile while we're doing this?
Say that again?
Chris, it's Val. How are you?
Who's this?
It's Val.
Hey, Val.
Hey, cool, Val.
Yeah.
But what's funny is I set this to be mute, so when everybody comes on, it should have automatically muted. So I don't, maybe they're turning it on. Maybe they're unmuting them.
Well, you can, Chris, you guys can, you can control the meeting by putting everyone on mute and then use the chat box for questions.
Yeah, that's what I thought we did. I mean, I'm just looking at the settings here, and it says that mute on entry, automatically mute when it's on. Let me try it again.
Yeah, it was, but we can click off on it. So,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's fine. No, it's good. Nice to hear your voice, and hopefully we got something that will change your life. I don't think so.
You never know. I'm all about learning something.
Right on. Okay, well, it's 4 o'clock. I'll go into a long preamble here.
Grund.
So right now we got 26,000 people on. Hey, everybody, it looks like John's got quite he attracted quite a few people here.
Oh, great.
So my name's Kris Moe, and John Grund's right there, and we got Bobby Aldrich. And basically, John and Bobby, I've been making videos with Bobby for now, probably about 6 or 7 years, because I've always been interested in doing Titles Performance Institute stuff. And Bobby, as you're going to learn, has a great background in doing that. And I just love his passion, and and John, the same thing. John's been nice enough over the years to hold the camera for me as I make my little golf videos for YouTube. And I've always just had a blast just being on screen with John, because he's entertaining as all hell. So I think,
Yeah, right.
I think all of us have been on so many Zooms lately that we're like, you know what, maybe we should help people with what we know, golf, and share some things that will kind of get them, doing something in the house to maybe help them with their golf game. So that was kind of why we did this. And it was just an excuse for us to get together and kind of push us to have to do a little bit to come up with something kind of interesting and have a laugh. So here's the first laugh. So John was just commenting about my hair, and it's because my gal who I'm living with just cut my hair, and you'll probably see a little spot right here that she's just learning how to use the little buzz cutter. So I think if we're in the house another month, I think we're all going to experience something of either really long hair or having to get a haircut. So without further ado, here's what we're going to do. We've kind of broken this into 3 sections. The first section is going to be, John's going to talk a little bit about putting, and then I'm going to get a little bit into some full swing stuff, which is, I haven't really touched the club, probably like a lot of you, for a month and a half or 2 months. And hopefully, from what I've understood from Gavinism, is maybe that we're gonna find that the golf courses are going to be opening pretty soon. There's one great thing about the golf business or playing golf is you kind of keep your social distancing. You can walk by here, buddy.
Thank you.
So we were supposed to be in Bobby Aldrich's work studio today, where he does his strength and conditioning coaching, and his landlord had some kind of program going on, so we couldn't do that. So we're going to do some putting for about 10 minutes. John, I think, is one of the best putters on the entire planet, and I think you guys can all attest to that.
Oh, stop. Some more.
Yeah. And I think he's got an amazing coaching style, which is very as a coach, loves to measure things and has, well, we call them Inspector Gadget, all kinds of ways for people to feel things, which I always found fascinating, because I'm learning a lot of other things. It's fun to come across a coach who can help you grasp something that's very unclear. I mean, it takes time to learn. I think we all know. Bobby's the same way. Bobby's over the years has given me so many amazing ways to stay mobile or get more strength. So we're going to do putting, and then I'm going to do some full swing things, and then Bobby's going to chime in and share some of his knowledge on how to get more mobility and things. So without any further ado,
And open discussion at the end. Huh?
yeah, so we're going to go about 30 minutes. And at the end, for the golfers out there, you can just check in and just say, hey, I'd like to learn more about blank. So whether it's cutting hair or a new joke or whatever, we're going to do our best to kind of make this entertaining. Because let's face it, after a month of being indoors, I think we're all getting a little cabin fever. And that's kind of why we're doing this. We want to have a little fun, and hopefully we're going to do this maybe weekly, and we'll just see where it takes us. So John Grund, let's talk about some putting. So John's going to get into what?
Putting. So, hey, thanks for joining today. And I don't know what club you've probably picked up, but during the pandemic and staying inside most of the time, might have been a putter, huh? So whether it's on a carpet, down a hallway, I've seen some pretty interesting videos lately. So what I want to do is try to get across one concept that I find with many of my students and fellow golf professionals really is a problem with their putting. And my first thought is that it starts with a concept of what you're trying to do with the putter. So I think that a lot of people have this feeling that the putter kind of moves straight back and straight through, when in reality, the putter actually moves on an arc. So the putt, now it's a very small arc, to be honest with you. If you look it out at maybe 10 or 12 inches, maybe 5/8 of an inch back inside the straight line to the target. And I'm going to demonstrate this here in a minute. So it's not much of an arc, and that's kind of determined by the shaft angle of the dress. So if you're a person with the steep shaft angle, your arc is going to be much more severe. If you're a person that's more upright, it'll be less severe. So the average shaft is somewhere between 68 and 71 degrees on an angle to the ground for standard putting. Bobby Schaefer not included here, as he's a side saddle boy. So, he had many battles with USGA on that one. He can tell you more about that. But most putters sit between 68 and 71, and that kind of determines the arc. So how do we make that happen? That's the key. So what I see, I'm going to change the camera here down a little bit so you can see a putter that I've got set up, and this is where it turns into the mad scientist.
In the meantime, I'm going to juggle 3 balls.
That look good?
They're
3 balls.
invisible.
They're invisible balls. That look pretty good there.
Oh, you're just covering the thing there.
you go.
That look pretty good?
That looks good.
Okay. All right. So here's the mad scientist in me. What I see with most of my students, sorry for getting off screen here, is what I see with most of my students, and I'm going to show you what the improper shoulder motion looks like. And this is something I use for alignment. I use it for a lot of different reasons. But what I see with most students is that when they set up to the ball and they're putting, they have this look that looks tilty this way. And it's kind of a disconnected motion. When it's correct, and this is what I brought this out today. See, we might call this a straight line here, but the reality is if I keep this shaft on the straight line, it will actually move on an arc. Now it looks like it's going to go straight back and straight through, but as you can see now, my shoulders are actually rotating a little bit back and through, back and through. So it's that simple, really. Once you begin to understand that the arms and the shoulders work together and the putter works on an arc so that the right shoulder's moving slightly back and up and the left shoulder's moving slightly back and up, then you can actually have your putter, and I'm going to remove this now, you can actually see your putter work on an arc. This is a putting arc. This is a great thing to practice with, right? So once you have a putting arc, that's a good place to start. You can hit balls along a straight line out to your target using your putting arc. Now the key element here is once you kind of get the idea of how this happens, I'm going to grab my cell phone to help you. Here's a drill that you can use to help you understand this. And I'm going to stand in front of the camera here. If I'm going to make a stroke, you're good there, it's fine. When I'm going to make a stroke, you want to kind of make sure your chest looks down the target line. Notice my arm didn't come off my body and there was a motion that it didn't work together. Notice that they all kind of work together. Now another important aspect of this is when I'm doing this, my spine angle stays constant. It doesn't stand up, it doesn't get lower. My spine angle stays constant. My chest starts to look down the target. I want my cell phone to look down the target line. The other important aspect of this, if you want to be a great putter, is that your eyes will always track your target line, which brings me to our posture, which is really important. To enhance this consistent motion over and over again, to produce this consistent shoulder rotation, we want our arms and shoulders to work together. Notice how my elbows sort of work up my right side, they work down my right side, and they work back up my left side. Notice my elbows sort of work this way along my spine, and they notice how my forearms match the shaft. My forearms and the shaft are the same. Almost all good putters, they don't have an elbow up or an elbow down. They have two forearms which pretty much match the shaft angle. This is a severe angle. It's more upright for the average golfer, but you're going to find, and you see a lot of great putters today doing this left arm in the forearm here. Why? Because now dominantly that shaft is going to match this forearm, but sometimes they miss this back forearm. So you want to match this back forearm to that. So the posture again is spine, eyes over ball, forearms match my shaft plane, and my eyes are right on my target line. They could be slightly inside, which is favorable. You'll see some good. Aaron Badley's a great putter. He's pretty far, eyes are pretty far inside the line. Jordan Spieth's eyes are more over the ball. He's a great putter, but it's somewhere close. So directly down, usually under your dominant eye or somewhere close to your dominant eye. If you're a dominant left eye, and this gets out there a little bit, but if you're a left eye putter or dominant with your left eye, you can have the ball further forward in your stance, a la Jack Nicklaus. If you're not a dominant right eye putter, I don't think Jordan is, probably more towards the middle of your stance. So, but either way, your eye line is going to be right over the ball. And you want those shafts, you want your forearms to match the shaft. And again, the motion here that you want to see is this all works together as a unit. That's what we're trying to do. It's not a blocking motion. It's not a throwing motion. It's a motion where it all sort of just works together. And notice the spine angle stays constant and the shoulders rotate. Shoulders rotate. It's that simple. Now I'm going to add a few things here just at the end of, since we're staying inside a lot. Biggest thing you can do is learn how to aim. Aiming is really helpful. Now, it's not the entire picture really, because I know from studies that even the best golfers in the world think they're aiming at their target with their eyes, but their brain is actually doing a better aiming. So what actually happens, and I'm going to move back here, what actually happens is, for better players, is their face may not be lined up exactly, but it's a good place to start. So always try to aim more effectively. Here's a real simple tool. There's an old story that Sam Snead liked. Favorite course in Northern California here was Sonoma Golf Club, or I think it was called Sonoma National in the old days. And he stayed at the Sonoma Inn, and one of the reasons why he liked the Sonoma Inn was why? It had square bedposts. Why are square bedposts important? Because he could line up his club face on his bedpost, and he could look down at what a square club face looked like. So I have taken a 2x4, put a little line on it. I can lay that line down on the ground in front of me, and I can line up my club face. So if you have a door jamb, or if you are so happen to have a little 2x4 around or something, or some square surface, and you can look at it from above, my suggestion is you to start looking at what it looks like to have your club face looking straight down the target line. See what that looks like to you. Practice bringing the club face back to that. Tap it a few times. Just feel what that feels like. That's a great way to build some consistency with aim. Another thing is, as you might see here, I've got a putting carpet. Now this is pretty extreme, but I've got a putting carpet. So what kind of puts all this together? You can use your own carpet. Find a straight line to putt down. What puts this whole thing together? If I take all this away, all the contraptions, what's the one thing that allows me to understand what I'm doing correctly? That would be, does this ball with this line on it, find a way, you can email me or text me, but I have a way of putting the line all the way around the ball. You can see that black line. What way can I make this ball roll end over end? That's what I'm trying to do. If I could hit a spot straight in front of me, I've used my pocket putting mirror here, which you can find online. It's got a straight line. It helps me line up my club face. You can see on it. There's a straight line on this mirror. I line up my club face, my ball on that line. So the line on the ball matches the line of the mirror. My eyes are right on the line of the mirror. And my objective is to roll this thing straight down the line. Boom, straight down the line. Let it roll straight down the line. And so to sum up, we get better shoulder rotation. We get our forearms to match the plane. We get our club to hang, get our arms to hang from our body. Here's a sledgehammer that sometimes I use to kind of feel like my arms are hanging from my body. You could use a pail of water at home and you feel like your arms are hanging. Get a ball with a line on it at home and just practice getting this feeling of shoulders rotating, forearms on line, and get the feeling of I'm rolling the ball down, straight down the line. There's a little slope in this driveway here, in the garage. So that's what you're after, to make it real simple, to have a little fun. You can invent all sorts of games, putt into a cup, pick out a target, do all sorts of things. Hopefully you've uncovered a little bit of truth to help you with your stroke, a better concept, and a couple of ways to apply that concept in the drill. I now bring you Kris Moe, and thanks for joining in, and we're going to talk about swing.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, John. And I'm seeing online, there's some pretty serious pros that are watching this. You got your buddy Bill McKinney on there, and Val's teaching a lot. I see Dave Falvey is on there. Dave had me on a podcast the other day and was kind of cool. So David, thanks for chiming in. So for some of you guys, this is obviously, we appreciate your just being online and your support. I was going to keep it kind of simple because I haven't been playing a lot of golf. So I brought this broom out. I want to get this big old middle-aged body just kind of moving again. And Bobby, I'm going to bring you in sooner than later on this. Sure. So Bobby's garage, by the way, I call this almost a man cave. What would you call something when you have this many athletic things? And, I mean, he's got amazing kids, and they're all, doing high level, weightlifting and things. So right off the bat, Bobby, you kind of know my body, but the average 58-year-old guy or gal, what's the best way for them to start kind of, shaking off some of the cobwebs or the rust from being in winter time and then sitting in the house.
Yeah, well, a lot of things that people are doing is sitting right now, right? So we're all sitting there. So for you guys to get moving again before you start swinging a big club and getting through that athletic maneuver, you really have to start opening up that body. One of the things I like to do, I use a broom just to feel just the nice length of what you can get when you swing this, right? So if I'm down the line here, the weight of this broom just gets me to start loosening up. Now, another tool you can use for this is the orange whip. So if you don't have a broom and you have the orange whip, we can grab that and do that. And again, the orange whip, this is nice because it can really start to loosen you up. And one of the things I want to talk about today is when you're loosening up, what are some things you can do besides swinging that's actually going to open you up? So take, for example, like, hold this, Chris. So one of the things I like to do is use basically a wall and get you to stand up against that wall where all of your back, shoulders, muscles will touch the wall. And what we're doing here is taking out rotation in the body.
You want to do that?
Yeah, I can show it to you right here on the wall here. And one of the reasons why we do this is if you're sitting all day and you're rotated this way, and you're on a computer or whatever you've been doing all day forward, this exercise is actually going to open up your shoulders. It's going to take out the little bit of rotation you have in your shoulders by pushing your arms on the wall, keeping your feet approximately a foot apart. So I'm squeezing all my shoulder blades together, my hands are wide, and then I'm basically, if you go back further, they probably can see like my feet and stuff. You basically can see, I'm going to slide the wall. And this exercise right here strengthens your upper back and shoulders. I have my feet slightly internally rotated, which is working for a golf swing, internal, external rotation. So as I move one way, it's internal. As I go the other way, it's external. So it's internal, external. So what are we doing in a golf swing? Same thing. Internal, external, right? So if you don't work these muscles and get these muscles to start moving like that, when you swing a golf club, a lot of you guys will say, my low back gets sore. God, I get sore when I play golf. So by strengthening your shoulders with this exercise, you'll notice that you're stretching from the bottom of your foot all the way to the top of your head, shoulders, and neck, all right? And this will help take out that rotation in the body. Another exercise I like to teach you guys that's good for the swing that really dives into your hamstrings is, again, when you set up and have good posture, how are we going to be set, right, when we swing? We're sitting, our hamstrings will get tight. So again, that low back stress that you guys get in here, the hip flexors, maybe your shoulders tight. This exercise right here is called the runner stretch. And what you do is you can start with a chair, you put your foot right behind it, we kneel down, I've got the length of my foot, so it's in a line. The reason I'm in a line is if I line up with you guys right here, if my feet are like this, my hips are already square. When I put my foot in front of the other foot, now they're a little bit turned this way. So when I pull my hip back and I hinge forward, so you can see it now here, I hinge forward. Beginners will use the back of the chair. As you get more advanced, you're going to turn around like this, okay? And the most advanced, if you want to turn it down, we'll go to the floor, Chris. So we go down in here. So if we go up top, this is beginner, intermediate, advanced. And what we're doing is we're keeping both knees locked out. My back is flat, and I'm opening up my hip and all the way up into my thoracic spine. So again, for rotation in the golf swing, to have better hamstring flexibility, this isn't just a hamstring stretch though. This is literally working all the way up the low back into the upper back, our T-spine, okay? So we started over here with taking out rotation. We dove in right here to stretch out those hamstrings and hips. And then the last one I wanted to show you guys was, let me show you this one. This one ties it all together. So if you guys can do these three for the next few weeks before you play, you will feel like you are lengthened out and ready to go. So to show them, can you see my feet? Let's go. So what I do on this one is I put my feet a certain distance apart. Can you see my feet? Yeah, there you go. So say I'm at 50 inches apart. I bring my hand down to 25. I'm using a chair for beginners right here, okay? So a chair. Normally we'll go to the ground and we'll do this rotation like this. But if you can't touch the ground, We're gonna use the chair. So I'm 50 inches apart. I put my hand in the middle, and then I'm gonna rotate. And I do this 3 times. So I reach, and I open, okay? So what is this doing? What's the benefit of this? Tight adductors, right? Again, we're talking low back pain in golf swing. If I can open up my adductors, if I can get my hamstrings a little bit more lengthened, if I can get my T-spine to start moving properly in the frontal plane, then when I dive into this one and throw it all together with the rotation, now you're getting in deep into a golf swing. All right, so you're gonna start to feel like, well, I feel so much looser, okay? So 50 inches on the first set, hand in the middle at 25, we rotate 3 times. Okay, then we're gonna switch arms. Come on this side, and we're gonna reach 3 times. After 3 of those, I'm gonna go 2 inches wider. So now I'm at 52, go to 26, and I'm gonna do it 3 times again. So what I do with my clients is I have you do 5 sets. So you go 50, 52, 54, 56, and as you get better, you're gonna lower the height of the chair. Eventually get down to the ground. So I think Kris should go over now some of the swing stuff that you want to do that will help with that.
Well,
Once you're mobile.
I'm going to keep this really simple, and it's everything he just said is phenomenal foundational work. But I'm going to say grabbing something kind of heavy in the beginning just to get some momentum to help you get a little deeper stretch when you're doing this is going to be amazing. And I'm going to kind of just leave it at that. This in conjunction with maybe doing eventually some speed drills with the orange whip, or just turning I guess you can just grab your golf club and swing them in the back is another way of doing it. The point is as you guys all know, maybe you don't always know, is to do this incrementally and not rush right into it and try to go at, high RPMs. I think, John, I'd love to have you come in for 1 second, do your juggling with the ball.
Well, I'm an amateur at this. My buddies do this all the time. They show me, actually Bobby, Bill, and those guys, but they can do it for hours. But this is really a good thing to do if you want to have a little fun. You go right-handed, left-handed. This is good for your focus. A little good for strength, depending on what weight you want to use. You can go crazy with it. I know I see my buddy Bobby do it with a sledgehammer all the time. I've never even tried this before, but we'll do it right now just to see if this is what Bobby does. Let's see if I can, maybe does he
I
put
try
it
with
there?
my axe.
Let's see you do it with an axe.
Anyway, I can't do it, but you can do it with a sledgehammer. But I do it with, you do it with the axe, well, there you go.
This is
By
one
the
of the
way,
hardest ones to do I've ever tried to do. I was messing around with the other day watching John make this literally look easy.
But anyway, these are some fun things you can do in this time off. And actually, it's pretty good for both your focus and your brain. It's amazing. Some of my buddies also practice handwriting skills, and we use a focus band a lot, which helps us get into the right side of our brain, which is a good place to be when you're playing golf. So, by the way, let me just go back here a little bit. We were talking about this. I'll get back a little bit. So, yeah. So, here's the thing. When we're talking about putting, on the golf course, I am the least mechanical putter I know in the world, honestly. I really don't have any other thought than a visual concept of what I want the ball to do. I literally am clueless as to what's going on with my putting stroke. I do not really think about it. I once was given a putting lesson to Jerry West. I don't want to drop names, but it was a pretty interesting moment for me as a young man. He being sort of a hero of mine on the basketball court. And he asked, I played golf with him a couple times, and he called me. I was working at a club down in Los Angeles where he was a member, and he said, hey, John, you got to come out and give me a putting lesson right now, which was odd because I was the only person in the golf shop when there was nobody else around. But I figured out a way to get out on that putting green with Mr. West, which I did. And the concept behind this lesson was visualization. I asked him, I said, I know you've been asked this 1,000 times probably, but what do you think? Because he was a very good putter most of the time, and he was struggling a little bit with it. So I asked him, what do you think about when you shoot a basketball? And he said to me, I don't often get a good look at the rim, but if I can find the rim with my eyes, I can figure out where my hand and my body needs to go to release that ball to get through that hole. and he was pretty effective at doing it. So what that means is for me, when I'm on the golf course, the most powerful thing you can do is see it before it happens. This is unequivocally what you want to do. This connects to that. This allows me to focus when we do things like this, when we handwrite, practice our writing, do things, we get into a side of our brain which allows us to be more creative and allows us to do all these things we're talking about with our body. So, and it's by the way, just to let you know, it's a great place to be. We often talk about great sports moments, players, everything slows down. One of my young idols is a young man, is a guy named Lenny Clements. I hope he's listening. I doubt if he is, but I always looked up to him. He was a few years older than me as a golfer, and he just had his stuff together. And I asked him one time, I said, how do you do it? And he says, you know, I'm always looking for that one moment that's going to make or break that round of golf or that tournament. I live for those moments. And that's when great players slow down in their brain. They go to the right side of the brain. So that's when golf gets fun. We do play by feel, but if feel is not supported by geometry and physics, you're not going to play good golf. You don't need to understand the geometry and physics, but if you do, you're a little better off. Anyway, there's my 2 cents. I was just chiming in.
I just want to say what John was saying is another reason I went over the moves I showed you. I'm trying to take the rotation out of your body, and I'm trying to get you to be a little bit more equal from left to right. So one of the things I forgot to tell you guys, if you're a left-handed golfer, you should be swinging right-handed, okay? And that's going to actually loosen you up a lot too. So getting used to swinging both directions, I have my players swing more often the opposite way than they do the way they normally swing. So that way you'll actually stretch your body out even more. So like I said, those 3 little simple exercises I showed you guys, we're really just trying to get the body to be a little bit more even. So when you go play, your hip flexors, your low back, your hamstrings, you actually can manage your game that day without pain. You know, pain-free play is one of the best.
Hey, Bobby, let me ask you a question. So kind of for me, how quickly or what should I do to start? I want to pick up 5 miles an hour. What would be the progression and how much time? Because I have a feeling everybody out there, including Stuart Smith or whoever, would like 5 more miles per hour. Yeah.
Well, I think we'll go over more detail of this next week, but you have to move better if you want to hit the ball longer. So as you increase your range of motion and strength, that can translate directly into distance if you're doing the proper stuff. So some of the things like they were talking about before, Kris and
Show
John,
them the step drill.
is
So Sarang, I know you're listening right now, and this is one of the best drills for anybody.
I am. I'm listening. I'm watching.
To try to get your timing going. So watch this. So it's a step drill. You step and swing. And I think it's just a wonderful way of getting the athleticism going gradually. You do it with the broom, and then gradually get to the golf, you know, hit with the regular, golf club, and maybe you can hit the ball.
What I like about this is it's teaching you the kinematic sequence of sequencing hands back, right, loading, hands high, then I'm going forward, sitting, and exploding through that with my hips. So you can practice that sequence and get that down where you start to get the kinematic sequence, because a lot of amateurs get to the top and they throw those hands, right? So by doing this exercise, you start to sequence that sit and that explosion through that, coming up on the ball. Then you do it the other way too. So we're gonna go both directions, swing through and up, get the feel of that. And the sequence isn't this, when we're moving forward. The sequence is this. Make sense? That's it. And then pop through that. But by working both sides of the body and working on that athletic maneuver, you'll start to generate more speed through it. It's a I've had guys increase miles per hour from 3 to 9 miles per hour in one session doing those exercises. It's unbelievable because they learn how to sequence it properly. And between the stretches, the lengthening, the strengthening, and the whip, I mean, in a couple of weeks, you're going to start noticing the difference in how this goes.
So Stuart has a question about, basically, I'm just getting into the Q&A here, and you guys are welcome through the chat to fire in a question. But Stuart had a great question that I think it's exactly what I'm working on these days is, DJs bowing of the wrists. What's up with that? Well, to me, basically what it comes down to is most of us want to hit with a lag angle. And so that's, the shaft is going to be lagging behind the left arm. And I'd love to get Bill to even chime in on this. I bet he can write a book on this. But what it's doing is when you're bowing the wrist, it's getting that toe down this way. And when you're lagging and using your body to get it around, if this isn't bowed enough, that face is not going to be square enough. So I love showing people this, and it's like, why do you want to hit it with a lag swing? Well, when you choke down on a club like this, and you do, the advantage of this is look how little variation there is in the toe rotation when you're down here, versus when this is cupped or you're getting a lot of forearm rotation. I tell people you're going to be just so much more consistent. Frankly, my challenge on this one that's overly bowed is I have a hard time getting the ball up in the air, and that's why I kind of stay. I love hitting my short irons this way. I'm blown away the way, maybe you can chime in, John, is how do you hit it high from that position aside from doing this and backing up on it? But I love getting all my students, because most of my students shoot in the 90s, and that's most golfers. That simple little tip of doing this, it's amazing how all of a sudden it straightens out their ball flight. But that to me is what it is. I believe in complementary actions that you can do in the swing. So laggers to me are going to be, what's complementary to that is a stronger grip. The stronger grip is going to make it easier to get the face square like this. What else is complementary to a lag type of swing? Again, hitting the golf ball like this with the club behind you, is the club is also going to be down here more. It's not going to be up here. It's going to be flatter. It's going to be another complementary aspect to make it work. So another one that's going to work out really well is going to be it's going to be back here more. What's going to be complementary to it for sure is going to be a lot of body, and that's not everybody can do that. If you have a slow body, it's going to be more challenging to get the club from this lagged position back in front of you. And that's why I show my students, to show them how much they have to use their body, is if they put it across their tummy like this, I mean, that's what it kind of feels like. So anyway, there's the answer, Stuart. I hope that kind of answers it. To me, it's really about getting that toe down. And so you won't have to do as much correction at the bottom of the swing with forearm rotation.
Go ahead, John.
Well, one thing I'd like to kind of make clear is I see a lot of my students do this, is that when they're trying to get a ball up in the air, they tilt back to get the ball up in the air. And so they have this motion that looks tilty coming back to the ball. What I really would like to understand is that as you're rotating, this right hip is starting to move at the ball. It's not moving, it's moving out. Your right hip actually moves out, not under, but out towards the ball. So we have this sort of motion where my right hip is moving more out to the ball, and consequently on my left shoulder is moving back and out of the way. So we can have this thump sound, right? And that's a smash bag down there. We want to produce that thump sound. That happens as I swing, and my arms are still pretty much on my body. They haven't really left. This is pretty far-fetched for a guy that probably doesn't hit it out of the shadow, but that will help most people produce a little extra speed.
Hey, John, here's a question.
Yeah.
So Sarang asks, how do I set the club on the downswing? I think any drill would help for some of us who have a steep driver's downswing.
Oh, got the best one for you on the planet.
Great, there you go. What drills can I do to flatten out the club on the downswing? So that would be another thing I was getting at with complementary. If you're lagging, it's going to be steeper, so you have to find some way to create a balance to that. And that's why the club is back over here. It's going to come more from the inside.
Yeah.
The more inside it comes, basically it's going to create a shallow to the steep of the lag angle.
So here's a drill that's pretty helpful. Thanks, Chris. Well, here's a drill that's pretty helpful. Once you get the club to sort of match your club fit and your face, and your left hand and your left club face match, which is kind of an ideal situation to be. We have some players that are more closed today, but ideal is pretty much where back of the left hand, back of the club face face. If you can take your inside your, if I had a golf glove here, slide a credit card inside your golf glove, and as you're starting down, try to get the top part, which is this part here, to move away from your wrist. So as you start down, try to get that to move away from my wrist. And what you're going to see is you're going to see that motion which Chris talked about. So you put a credit card in your glove and try not to collapse the credit card into the wrist, but move it away. And so it'll shallow out the shaft as your body rotates. If you combine that with the concept that Bobby gave you of sequencing of this motion this way, club shallows out and you will get a more shallow shaft, less steep on the driver by using the credit card.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I'm going to bring it back to Bobby for one more question. We didn't want to throw too much stuff at people, but what the heck? Go ahead. What was your vibe on, or what was something you can contribute or say about what we were just saying on the body side?
Well, I was thinking more of like when you guys go and play, a lot of you guys tell me all the time, you're tight towards the end of the round. You start, the one thing you guys can manage on your own is how much sleep you get every night, how much water, hydrate yourself during the day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be drinking 100 ounces. So things like, and then also eating better. So at the end of the round, when you guys said, well, I've been doing all my stretching, I've been doing all my workouts, I've been doing all my stuff, those three things right there will make a difference tomorrow, immediately. You will feel better and sleep better. You will feel more flexible just by hydrating better. So it's like, rather than throwing more exercises at you and more stuff, just manage those three things and that will help you along. That's one of the things I teach all my players.
Questions?
Well, I'll check the questions, but I'm a huge believer, and I think hopefully everybody out there is sleeping well. Frankly, I've been going through some anxiety, with this weird normal we're, going through. And that's exercise is so important to, again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but I haven't been sleeping well. I'm usually a pretty good sleeper, and I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you drag ass when you don't get a good sleep.
I was going to say something to that too, is the reason a lot of people are having trouble sleeping right now is our biorhythm is different. Our lifestyle has changed. Things are totally different, and your body's trying to figure out what is all this. We're in the house a lot more often than we are outside. So think about you golf pros who used to be out on the range all day long. Now you're in your house. That's hours of sun you are missing. That's hours of time with other people. And then you go home and you say, why can't I sleep? It's your biorhythm is literally off. So manage things that you can manage. Like I said, the water, hydrate yourself more, get more sleep, and just understand it's a different time now. So you just kind of got to get used to that. So yeah.
I'm going to drop this in. I wanted to put this in at some point. What's helped my sleep, because who doesn't want to have little hacks to how to sleep better? It's actually helping my golf game as well. And it's basically these essential oils. And essential oil is something for a while I was playing around with, because who doesn't get anxious when you're playing golf? But just smelling like a lavender or something. But we bought diffusers for the house. So now when we're sleeping, I have a diffuser blasting out like jasmine or something really nice, pleasant smell. And I'll tell you, it works pretty darn good. Not only when you're playing golf, but it might help you sleep better. I didn't realize the power of our senses and how to get us to stay in the present. So there's a little Kris Moe hack for you. Anybody got anything else right now, or should we just chime off?
Yeah, you can go over for questions.
We got the questions going. Let me look one more time. John, I'll let you take over for a second.
I'm exhausted. I have nothing more to say. I was told that Alan Tapey may join us today. And Alan, if you're here, I just want to share a story for you. It was 43 years ago, come this summer, I played in the Queen Mary Open. played as an amateur. And somebody sent me, probably my brother, hope he's listening in, Tom, who saved a lot of, I was very bad at saving my 2 or 3 press clippings over the years. But he sent me the cut from the Queen Mary Open, and it was quite a field. I think out of 64 guys or so that made the cut, like close to 30 won PGA Tour events eventually. 2 of them won US Opens, I think. So it was a pretty good field. And I made the cut as like an 18, 19-year-old kid playing in it. But Alan Tapey, I believe, won that tournament. I watched him beat Ray Areno either in a playoff or coming down to the 18th hole. It was a par 3. They both hit 3 woods in those days, probably 225 into the wind. But they both mushed some 3 woods up there, and I think Alan won that, made a big impression on me. Always a great putter too, Mr. Tapey. So I hope you're listening, and thanks for that
Read off
moment.
a couple of things to you.
Yeah.
So Stuart, who's probably one of the best golfers
Ever. In modern.
basically he's saying, you know, for a lot of people, if you've always been kind of handsy at the bottom, you know, what do you do? So he actually is kind of promoting or saying how much his impact snap tools help. I don't know what the impact snap tool is.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Paul Gorman uses it a lot on the lessons. Yeah, we talked about hitting the ball or putting. Hitting the ball.
Hitting a ball. But here's one from one of your buddies, Howdy Doan.
Howard Doan. Yeah.
Basically is asking about good exercises to be choke proof. I don't have that one. You probably do.
Is this a snap? Is this a snap?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, that's a good question.
Don't think so much.
You know, again, I think you've got to be process oriented and not result oriented. I think that's ultimately where it kind of goes for most of us competitors on the golf course. When we're process oriented, we're disciplined on our process. So for me, it's usually analyze, visualize, center, and execute. I need to be in that process. And if I have a caddy, he needs to be in that process with me. He's my biggest support system. So I need to come up to a situation and, you know, whether I'm trying to win a tournament or whether I'm just trying to finish a tournament, whatever it is, it's still just a golf shot. Now, I can apply all different levels of meaning to that shot, and certainly reality imposes bigger meanings at times than others, but it still gets down to that process. And so if you can be in the moment, and I think that's the key, is being in the moment. And being in the moment is being focused on, be clear about what's going on around you. And that's a very subtle thing. You can do it on a lot of different levels. I often watch Mr. Woods, El Tigre. When he gets on a putting green, his eyes go soft, his face goes soft. And what that does is I think that allows him to see visually a bigger picture of what's going on. When our face tightens up, we're not getting as much blood flow to our head. I know this sounds pretty crazy, but I think it's true. So his pulse rate goes down. I know he's talked about this. So respiration slows down. You're more in the moment. Any way you can capture and be more in the moment. Differentiate between the color of fairways, the green. Where's the pin on the green? All these things. Where is the wind coming from? You know, obviously your yardage. And you know, I think we can go through a million thought processes, but the one thing that really works is just hit the ball, take that aim and hit the ball in the center of the club face. So hopefully that helps you out. You're pretty good at doing it yourself, by the way. I know that. Matter of fact, I think I owed you I still owe you $20. So from the last time we played. So so anyway, that's about it. Be in the moment. Be process oriented. Anything else?
Hey guys, thanks for checking in, Bobby. Thanks for sharing your space, and thanks guys for checking in and
Thank you.
your questions and everything. And be safe. And I'm gonna leave you this one little last thing, and that's, you know, it's tough out there, but I like the idea of trying to do something kind for somebody. And it could be just a smile or calling some older person who might basically need some help in these times. So I'm just going to leave you with that. Be kind, and it's amazing how kindness ripples out, and it can affect so many people. And you know, 15 connections down the line, something amazing might happen. So anyway, all the best, and hopefully we'll be on the golf course in the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
See you guys.
Thanks all. This was great.
What's up, John?
Yeah.
Hi, John.
Say hi.
Hey, Nikki.
Come in and say hi.
How you doing, hon? All right. Cool.
Thanks.
Grundy.
Cool. Thanks for joining. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, you're in the camera. Did Mom say to get home this time?
Yes, you're the host. You're the one who has to sign off here. Let's see if we can do this.
Right.
I told you to get home at 4:45, but I couldn't